my dreams, yeah. In my life, I dream a lot of things in my life. You dream, I dream, they dream, we dream.
I'm here in Bristol, visiting the Bristol Jamia Mosque and looking at the interesting history around the formation of the British Muslim community here in the southwest. In 1964, around about a dozen Muslims came here to 25 Angers Road and held one of the first, if not the first, congregational Friday prayer in Bristol. Now the Friday is a Sabbath day, or the holy day known as Jum'ah in the Islamic tradition. And just like in other faith traditions, the Sabbath day in Islam has some obligations that need to be performed on it. One of those obligations is the prayer in congregation that takes place just after midday. It was because of this obligation that around about 57 years ago, a small group of Muslims came together in one of these terraced houses and performed the Jummah prayer. This moment, all those years ago, was a catalyst that sparked the beginning of the Muslim community in Bristol, and now, nearly 6 decades later, we have one of the largest, most diverse communities in the southwest of Britain. Throughout the 1960s, the Muslim student population grew due to the international students that were coming to study at the University of Bristol. Because of this, a room was allocated in the building behind me for the Friday Jummah prayers of the Muslim students. This was the second location where Muslims could come to fulfill the obligation that was to pray the congregational prayer on a Friday. And it was from these two gatherings where the aspiration to create the first ever mosque in Bristol were forged. In the early days of Muslim migration to Britain, the majority of mosques that were established were built through house conversions. This is when residential houses are adapted and changed into prayer spaces. The Bristol Mosque, on the other hand, had slightly different beginnings. Before this building was called the Bristol Jamia Mosque, it was known by a very different name. It was known as St. Catherine's Church. This building started off as a Christian church with a steep pitched roof and with Gothic windows on the ground floor. Nowadays, however, it looks very different. In 1968, this building was purchased for a price of £2,500, which is worth about £40,000 today. It's crazy to think about in 2022, but those were the days before you had to sell a kidney to be able to buy a property. But even though it may seem like a small amount today, it was still a huge achievement then, as the money was raised by a community that did not have a large amount of disposable wealth. Through the unity of the local community, the building was purchased and the first ever mosque in Bristol was created, which was the largest mosque in the whole of the southwest.
Jummah prayer being a congregational prayer, you can't perform that on your own. So for the Jummah prayer, we have 200-300. For the normal daily prayers, we have about 20-30 coming for Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Before this COVID-19, there was a lot going on, mashallah, a lot of sessions taking place. So because of COVID, we did become a lot quiet. So we're trying to, inshallah, become active like we were before. Mashallah, our elders, they did a terrific job, mashallah. They put so much effort in, and they were going door by door and collecting the funds, and mashallah, they built these masajid.
The bonds between Christianity and Islam run much deeper than just this mosque. The two religions have been constantly connected through history. Now, Islam and Christianity are known as Abrahamic religions. This means that the two religions can trace their history all the way back to the Prophet Abraham, or in the Islamic tradition, the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Both the Islamic and Christian traditions are monotheistic in nature, which means that in both religions, God, or in the Arabic, Allah, is a single omnipotent being who is the Lord of the entire universe. Although the theologies of the two religions do differ rather significantly from each other, it is still an incredible unifying point of both religions that they believe in the same God, who created Adam and Noah and Abraham and all the other prophets. On top of that, the Prophet Jesus, or Isa, is also a prophet in both the Islamic and Christian faiths. The two traditions share a collective history of prophets, customs, and biblical and Quranic stories. In the Islamic prophetic tradition of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we see a story from his lifetime of how he interacted with the people of the Christian tradition, or as they are known in the Quran, the people of the book. During the lifetime of the Prophet, a delegation of Christians came from the city of Najran to the city of Medina, which was the city of the Prophet, peace be upon him. When this delegation of people came to the city, they met with the Prophet inside the Masjid Nabawi, which is the main mosque in the whole city and one of the holiest sites in all of Islam. These people of the book came to meet with the Prophet, and while they were being hosted by the Prophet inside of the mosque, they prayed as they would have prayed and they worshipped as they would have worshipped, which was different from the Muslims of the time. It is the prophetic example to be compassionate, and this was shown in the interactions with the people of Najran. Now here we are, 1400 and some years later, experiencing a parallel to that very moment. Here in Bristol, we have a group of Muslims come to this country, and it was inside a former church where they found the place to be able to establish regular prayers. We can see from the prophetic example that the actions that were shown then are being paid forward today.
Here, this masjid as well, and even other masajid, mashallah, I've been to other masajid as well, and I come to know that, mashallah, the neighbors, the Christians, people of different faiths, they actually support the masajid, mashallah. And this brings so much happiness that they say, yeah, we need a masjid here, we need a mosque here, and they support. So, mashallah, this is great. So, yes, there used to be a church here. So, mashallah, now we have this masjid, and it's the first masjid in Bristol, and over, mashallah, 50 years old, mashallah. So, Allah Rabbul Alameen, may He preserve this masjid and all the masajid in the world, inshallah.
When we look at the beginning of the Bristol Muslim community, it is not just looking at the history of building purchases or room allocations. It is a combined history of two religions that have been side by side for thousands of years. When we look at the Islamic tradition, we see how the prophetic example was always of compassion and respect. Even though there are aspects of the Christian faith that the Prophet, peace be upon him, diametrically opposed, he was still willing to hold out the hand of allyship to the people of Najran. The Muslims of Bristol, like the Christians of Najran, are a testament to the fact that these two religions can live, work, and coexist side by side.